Welcome, everyone. We are going to get started in just a moment here. As you join us, we would love for you to do a few things so you are all set up. If you have your chat, make sure that your drop down is set to everyone as it defaults to just the hosts and panelists, and we want to make sure that everyone can see your comments. We have a prompt to start off today, and the prompt is, what is one thing that you rely on to be consistent? And if it's not, you get totally thrown off. So tell us what institution you're coming from, and then share your story of something that you rely on that's consistent, that if it's changed or off in some way, that it can throw you all off. We've had a lot of fun discussions internally as we were building this webinar of different things, everything from traffic to baking to just rituals that we are accustomed to, that I think as humans we are very much used to having an expectation of, like, things are going to go this way, and then suddenly, no, oh no, it's not, and we get all kind of flustered when that happens. So share your story if there's something that you rely on that when it's changed, it throws you off.
I have one that lives so vividly in my mind. Is I just had a little new baby and I was getting this tiny window to go to Target and grab a few things that I really needed. And when I entered Target, they had redesigned all of Target. And not just like a few aisles removed. I mean, the entire space was completely redesigned, and I couldn't find the items I needed, and I was like having an
Oh,
emotional
right. We are like, I
breakdown.
have 5 minutes to grab these three things, and now I have no idea where they are.
Yes, and it still lives on. I take my two small ones grocery shopping with me most days, and we kind of rely on knowing that the items we need are on this aisle, and chaos ensues if it's somewhere else, and I'm trying to wrangle two small children while we figure out where that item is.
Oh my gosh. Just as a reminder that your chat is going to default to just hosts and panelists. So you'll want to change that drop down where it says to everyone so that we can all see your chat. I love seeing all these things coming in. Oh my gosh, if not having hot water, I feel that one. We were just talking about needing to swim and shower in hot tubs and being in water and how much we rely on that. Let's see some other good ones.
Someone mentioned a school
Calendars.
holiday. Like
I
maybe
see.
just had that experience, right?
Yeah. Google Calendars. Well, please keep dropping some ideas in chat. We want to hear about your stories, as today we're going to talk about consistency. And just another sort of note for setup that we are recording this session. And so if you miss anything or need to leave early, we will send you the recording in a day or two. And anyone who is registered that might be on your team that couldn't make it today, we will also be sending it to them. So let's go ahead and we will get started. So today's webinar is part of our Design Matters live series, and today we're going to cover the ins and outs of consistency in course design. Along the way, we're going to share some of the research on the impact of consistency and our own personal experiences from instructional design and teaching worlds. You'll leave today with some simple changes that you can make that'll make a big impact in your learner's success. And just to review, you'll want to make sure that your chat is set to everyone instead of hosts and panelists. We will be sharing the recording, and we are also using the Q&A feature today. So if you have questions about the features that we show or the tools that we're going to be showing off, we have a teammate who I will introduce in just a moment who is going to be helping us with Q&A, and I'll be saving some of the questions to answer at the very end. So we have some time set aside just for doing Q&A at the end. So with that, please allow me to introduce our presenters for the day. We have Stephanie Tate, who's our product and marketing manager, the primary researcher behind the Design Matters blog and these webinars. Julie Van Dorn is our manager of training and documentation, as many of you recognize Julie from all of our amazing training videos. And Claire Mance is joining us as our customer support specialist. She's going to be helping us in Q&A, so if you have any questions, she will get you all set up and make sure that you have everything you need. I'm Kristen. I am the Marketing Engagement Director here and Resident City Labs Rainbow, bringing more color to your day. This is just a small fraction of our team who want to make sure that you get the most of every tool that you use from us. There's more people from our team who are probably in chat, so say hi, team, if you are here. And this is a lot of fun for us. So we would love to introduce you to how we do at City Labs. City Labs was founded out of a partnership with Utah State, where Kenneth Larson, our co-founder, was working as an instructional designer. He was given permission to hack Canvas and started making the first iteration of what would later become Design Plus, our flagship product, which you'll see more of later today. Over the years, our team has grown with educators and instructional designers, as well as former customers, several here today, who are drawn to improving the learning experience for everyone. We have 6 products for Canvas, from accessibility to course lifecycle management. All of these tools have been developed in partnerships with our customers and universities that we work with. Today, we're going to be showing off Design Plus, as I mentioned, which is our must-have suite of 3 tools that help make creating content for Canvas accessible, affordable, and fun. You'll also be seeing Ready Go, our Canvas course lifecycle management tool, which recently got a whole bunch of new updates. And if you're curious about any of the products along the way, please reach out for a demo. I'm going to drop that link in our chat so that you can find that. Of course, I have to find my link. I'll find that in a second. Moving on. So as I mentioned today, this webinar is part of our Design Matters Live series that started as a response to feedback from you about a growing need to be able to connect more research to the actual design challenges that are being faced in the real world right now. So each month we do a blog post in the Design Matters Digest where we share the research and how it impacts a particular education topic. We offer practical tips that are simple, easy to implement, and help you apply that research in a real, concise way. I'll drop the links in chat for you to sign up, and you can get this digest in your email every month. The link to register for the upcoming webinars will also be coming, and so I'm going to drop those in just a sec. We take these content stories, these ideas from each blog, and turn them into these Design Matter Live webinars. We want to bring to life the demos, examples, challenges, discussions, personal experiences, so that you can get a bigger picture of what this looks like and how it can help you in your instructional design challenges. So let's circle back to the prompt we started with and see what some of those ideas were. I'm going to drop some links in, if Stephanie, you don't mind kicking it off for just a second.
Yeah, we were thinking of like so many different examples of how consistency works in our real life, even just outside of courses. And so we had this chat prompt open if you came in early, but if not, here's a question for you. Feel free to participate in the chat. What's one thing you rely on to be consistent in your life? Doesn't have to be related to courses. And if it's not consistent, you're totally thrown off. I saw some people mention, like, I love when my kids put the dishes away until I can't find anything, right? I mentioned Target redesign when I had a brand new baby and had just a few minutes to grab items I need, walked into a fully redesigned Target and just started sobbing because I didn't know where to find the items. And so we know these moments of inconsistency can throw you off. What are some examples that you can think of? Throw them in the chat for us.
I see a lot of like coffee, electricity, some of the basics of just like things that we expect to be there and to be able to support us in our day.
And the commute to work. That's a big one. When there's something blocking your commute to work and it changes your timeline, ooh.
Oh, well, one thing is for sure, our brains love patterns, right? We love consistency. We rely on it. It helps us by reducing the amount of options by having consistency. So there's a true benefit to it in our brains. And it can have a serious impact if it's not consistent, right? We know this. We're talking about our personal frustrations when things aren't where we expect or things don't go the way we thought they would. And it's the same for learners, right? Learners are navigating a course and suddenly the assignment's not where they expected it to be. That could have a real impact on them. So we're going to talk about some of these impacts today. We'll talk about the why, which is the research behind it, and then we're going to show you the how. So how to make these simple changes to support your learners. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie, who's going to share some of our goals for today.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you were anything like me, it probably wasn't hard to come up with an example for that chat prompt, or perhaps you resonated with one or all of the examples that others were sharing. And the underlying truth, just as Kristen points out, of today's webinar is that we all rely on certain parts of life being consistent, and when they're not, we have to work harder. right? And so, of course, this matters for course design as well, because we certainly don't want our learners to work harder in the wrong places. And so, if you read the most recent digest, you got a sense for some of those research-backed tips for where and how to utilize consistent design in your courses. And today, we'll be diving deeper, and then we're going to be demoing solutions live with Design Plus and Ready Go.
Yeah, and one of the concerns that we hear a lot is that educators are worried that having consistency in their design means boring, uniform courses with no style or personal flair. But there's some nuances here. Consistency isn't about stripping out all of the personality and fun from a course. It's about ensuring that the basic elements of navigation and organization are present to reduce the cognitive load for your students and help optimize their learning experience.
This reminds me of a personal experience of mine that I used to own a bakery, and consistency was actually one of the biggest challenges I faced. I live in Florida, so things like weather could suddenly change how icing set up one day, or I had a new baker start and they might overfill a scoop of flour instead of leveling it. And so there are these little things that nuances that could change everything. Baking relies on having a reliable, repeatable method. It's very scientific and structured in that way. But I would also add that one of my favorite parts of the baking process was getting to decorate and customize. And it was an opportunity that even if the same two cakes had the same vanilla cake base and two layers, I could make them different. I could make them unique. And so one may have lemon filling and rainbow sprinkle icing, and another might be raspberry filling and roses on top. And so there were these opportunities that customization was possible. It didn't have to mean everything was uniform. It didn't have to all be the same. And another thought was thinking about a recipe that could be expanded. So a recipe for 1 dozen cookies could be used to make 4 dozen cookies. So it's kind of like templates in that way, right? Where having one structure could help make bigger things that could all produce consistency for others. So there was this expectation always of trying to have a similar flavor profile or taste for customers, which I think is maybe when we think about our audiences, our students, our learners, we want to have them meet the things and find the things that they need to find. But it doesn't mean that it has to all look and be exactly the same thing. So consistency does not mean uniformity. And we're going to show you a little bit today about how to balance consistent educational experiences with this room for personalization, which we think is really important. So faculty get to add that icing to your Canvas course cake.
What a great way to put it. I love the idea of educators getting to frost their own very consistent cakes. That's great. As a former teacher of an online Canvas course, when my college adopted Design Plus, I saw for myself how hugely this consistency in design impacted my own students' success rates. Something as simple as adding an accordion for the steps 1, 2, and 3 of all of my weekly assignments significantly cut down the amount of times I had to ask my students to resubmit those assignments. It saved them and me a whole lot of time and frustration. Focusing on designing for consistency where it really matters to your students can have a really big impact.
And, we've had a lot of metaphors today, and we're just going to keep going. We love mixing metaphors, and I think they're just helping us really understand all the layers of this. So, as I was researching this topic, I ran across a wonderful example in the instructional design blog from the Center for Teaching and Learning at DePaul University. So, Melissa Koenig explains this concept that you're seeing on the slide here. And I'm just going to read the quote from the blog while you kind of look at the sign. The quote says, when designing courses, should we really be concerned with creativity in button colors or navigation bars? Isn't it better to spend our energy making sure that the content is interesting, the interactions are engaging, and the assessments are relevant? Think about what would happen if you were in an unfamiliar city and the city planners allowed every neighborhood to design its own stop sign. Now, instead of the familiar octagon-shaped red sign, every corner had a different type of sign. Here's a question. What if it wasn't just the stop signs, but all of the signs that appear at intersections that were non-standard? Would you be able to experience the city? Or would you be more focused on making sure you always stopped when you needed to? I, for one, popping in as Stephanie would say that would give me a lot of stress. I would not love that experience. But Melissa goes on to say, while this may be an extreme example, we can produce the same effect in course design if navigation and course elements are not standard within the course, and in some cases, even between courses in the same program.
This is such a helpful metaphor. I, for one, would be so spazzy trying to navigate that city. It does not sound like fun at all. But Stephanie, does the research support this idea?
Definitely. So the research is clear that consistent course design can impact a range of outcomes, including reducing cognitive load, supporting successful course navigation and learning, boosting a sense of belonging, and increasing learner satisfaction. But to play on that last metaphor, right, of the street signs in a city, it's really a baseline level of standardization that delivers this big impact we're talking about today. It's not that every house or building in a city should look the same. In fact, I'll be the first to admit I've personally gotten myself lost in some housing tracks when they look too similar. Um, but it's that baseline level of consistency that facilitates your ability to attune to the right things. So note that consistency packs a punch when improving a few key things like course navigation, streamlining content organization, and supporting access to important resources such as student services or instructor contact information. And while we didn't squeeze it onto this slide, consistency has also been linked with a reduced instructor workload, much like Julie mentioned earlier. So this baseline consistency is a real win-win course design strategy for us. And to break this research down into actionable tips, we'll look at how and where to support consistency at 3 levels today. So we'll look at the content level, such as the design on your pages, assignments, discussions, etc. We'll think about the course level. So you're thinking like modules or course navigation at that point. And at the institution level. So thinking about how to scale baseline consistency. So let's go ahead and dive in now that we've mixed all of our metaphors. Our first area is about designing consistency in your content items. So we're going to think about why to design for consistency on your pages, discussions, quizzes, announcements, and how to do that for maximum impact.
Yeah, and okay, so imagine with me, if you will, that you want to cook a new dish for dinner and you look up a recipe online. What if it were missing the ingredients and instructions labels that we've all come to rely on? And instead, it only mentioned the ingredients as they became relevant in the process, buried in the paragraphs. It would be really frustrating to shop for those ingredients if you had to scour the whole page to find them, right? And it's the same for your courses. There's a lot of information for you and for your students to take in, and breaking it into those consistent chunks over and over can really help your students succeed and enjoy the process.
Great example, Julie. I also love when an online recipe has a jump to recipe button at the top because I'm not here to like read all that intro information. And the same is also true for your learners about where they can find the information they need. So what's great about your example though, Julie, is that the research really supports that concept of a consistent structure for navigating a task. So here you can see the research on this slide. There's a quote at the top that just says, if you are overly burdening working memory, which is easy to do, it can be a major barrier to learning. If it is overly burdened, there's a risk that content will not be understood, information will not be encoded effectively in long-term memory, and or information will be confused or misunderstood. So you're really getting this idea that if working memory is just a bit overloaded, right? If there's too much cognitive load happening, it's really hard to learn and then to store that information for later. Even if you take it in temporarily, you're not even sure how to organize it, right? And so that second piece comes into play here where visual structures reduce cognitive load. So if they're headings, that's great as well, or structures for organizing. They can improve concept retention as well as boost future assessment performance. And so these elements can be standard in this way. They can be consistent to support your learners. So what does this have to do with consistency? Well, for meaningful learning to occur, students need to organize the multiple representations of information into a coherent mental model. So they create these little kind of like understandings or models in their head for how to move around a course, for how to take in information in that course, and they integrate it then with their prior knowledge. And so a mental model, once it gets moved to long-term memory, continues to serve as a reference at each interaction, which reduces cognitive load. So the next time I come to maybe an assignment, I employ the mental model that I built the last time I looked at an assignment. And if those things match, I'm speeding through these assignment directions. I am able to learn better and take it all in better, which is so, so, so awesome. So great, that's research, that's fun, by creating some mental models in our learners' brains. But how can we actually do that? How can we get some content level consistency, and where will it have big impact, right? We're looking for the ways to have that impact without taking away all your ability to ice your own cake, right? And so the first strategy here is to segment your content with consistent headings. Sometimes you hear this referred to as chunking, right? And you'll see this in a lot of like quality standards rubrics. But this is the idea that you can label the sections, just like Julie mentioned for the recipe, right? You label the sections, and color can help with that to distinguish one heading from another. Borders around those headings can also help. You can even pair icons with headings, concepts, or activities. So a visual then can be an even faster cue for your learners to recognize that's the symbol for help, and I know that that's going to mean help. And so this consistency that's used on these items gets leveraged each time the student is interacting with that content. And then be sure to turn those designs into templates so that you, as the instructor or the designer, can keep reusing that consistently and save yourself a lot of time.
Absolutely. And all of that research is super compelling. But as a former teacher and instructional designer, I know the challenges of keeping course content consistent. We've always got a lot on our plates in those roles and not a lot of free time. Luckily, as I mentioned earlier, the design process got so much easier for me and honestly, a lot more fun when I got Design Plus at my college. So let me show you how.
That's me to stop the share. I was so engaged with you, Julie.
Oh, thank you. Wonderful. I love it. All right, so here I am on a page with the Design Plus sidebar, and I can very easily add a theme to that page to bring in some style. And notice how Design Plus actually brought in the heading that I have for my page and just popped that in there for me. Then, once I have my theme, I can add some content blocks to help chunk things up into those headings we need. Let's say for this first one, I might say welcome. And I'll even choose an icon so we have that visual anchor, yeah? All right, so there's my little smiley happy icon. Now, to make this even easier with Design Plus, I can use content that has already been created for me at the institution level. So I could quickly and easily pull in other content blocks like objectives, readings, or activities. And even if I find that I'm creating my own content blocks like this welcome that maybe I end up using over and over, I can make them my own special blocks in my course. I can create my own templates that I can just drop in so I don't have to configure that title and that icon every single time. But as we've been talking about, this is the consistent cake, right? We've got our headers, we've got our cake layers, maybe, but we want to play and make this our own with our icing choices. We can do that by choosing different styles here. So I could select a different theme, and kind of move my way through and figure out which one speaks to me and how I want my page to look, all while still keeping that consistency in the headings and the icons. And as Kristen mentioned, sometimes we want a special surprise jelly filling or custard filling in our pastries, right? So then you can use the Design Plus sidebar to add in those little joyful bits. For example, if I were to add an accordion to this page, kind of like I mentioned before, then I could have something that is interactive for my students to engage with right there on my Canvas content page. And you saw doing all of this was really quick, right? But Is there an even easier way where I don't have to select all of these content blocks or, remember how I put this together? There is, right? The Design Plus sidebar offers a way to bring in entirely organized content as a template. So you'll never have to remember which content blocks you used or what order they were. You can do this on any page, on any assignment or announcement, or even in the description area of quizzes or discussions. You can also do this on a Canvas syllabus. So let's see that in action. I'm going to use the template tool here and select a syllabus that has been provided by my institution. Now, inside this recommended syllabus, you can very quickly and easily see that we do have consistency among our titles. We've got that icon for them to latch onto and the title as well. But we also even have consistency in our images. Throughout the course, there can be a sense of peace here, seeing that all of these images have that same size and shape. And Design Plus makes it easy if you want to change one of these images. I could even select another image from my course images, and that size, shape, and styling of the image still remains nice and consistent for me. Also, to help with this consistency, we have action items that can be included in templates or course content. These action items can be built in by your designers or admins to give a hint as to what it is you need to do on that page so that we have a consistent result of what's provided. Anything I type below that purple box is going to be visible to my students, but everything inside that purple box is only visible for me. Another great way to maintain that consistency at your institution is to have policies. So inside this syllabus template that I was provided, I have a set of academic policies. Now, these are set at the institutional level and shouldn't really be edited by any one of us. So you can see I don't have the option to make changes here, but this will be updated over time as my institution makes changes to those policies. Now remember, even with all of this consistency, I still get to choose my icing. In that theme area, I can go into style and I can select different themes here and choose what I might want my syllabus to look like. So I've got those same consistent anchors of icons and titles for our students, but I get my own personal flair to it. That's pretty snazzy, right?
Absolutely. And Julie has given you a little preview of the section that we'll come to later when we talk about how to increase consistency across courses at your institution. Those key action items are amazing ways to support consistency in template use. I saw some people asking about like best practices for templates. Action items are certainly one of them. And you got a little preview of policies or our policy blocks that help you scale those policies in a consistent manner across your courses. So little preview coming there, but really want to point out that it's amazing that Design Plus really does make consistency easy and fun and allows that personalization, right? What I'm thinking now, though, is that what good is all that content level consistency if your learners can't even navigate to the content, right? I remember becoming so aware of the need for course level consistency when COVID hit. I, at the time, was teaching in-person high school English, and we didn't even have a true learning management system. We were simply using Google Classroom to kind of supplement and house our digital resources because, all the interactions were happening in person. But suddenly, my learners relied on that system, Google Classroom, for the majority of their learning. In my case, I realized very quickly I needed a structure for organizing coursework. I needed some naming conventions to distinguish one item from another. And I even decided I needed like a pattern to the items in each week, at least for me, in a case it was like to take it week by week. Starting with this like weekly overview document that just gave a sense for that structure. I was trying to create those mental models, right? And it was a really, really wild shift, I'll tell you. But students very quickly thanked me and actually asked that I share the tips with my colleagues. Why? Because they just wanted to learn and succeed without another barrier in the way.
Wow, Stephanie, that's amazing that they even asked you to share that with others because it's true. I think we can all resonate. We just want to learn. We want it to be as easy as possible, right? So, what does the research say about that?
Yeah, great question. You're not surprised, but it really lines up with these elements. So we're talking about, again, that baseline consistency that has a big impact. And here the research says that a well-structured interface really can reduce confusion and allow students to focus more on learning. Yay! So intuitive navigation contributes to a positive user experience. It reduces frustration and enhances overall satisfaction. There's me in the Target sobbing because I couldn't find my items, right? It's no different for your learners who are trying to find the assignment and they're about to cry because they can't find it. And so continuing on, the research also supports scaffolded course design and notes that it can actually improve a learner's cognitive awareness by emphasizing a logical flow of ideas. So if they're recognizing that, hey, every week I sort of do this, like I take in this learning and then I have a practice and that's all labeled for them and consistently organized, and then I do my assessment, that'll help them begin to internalize some of those structures as well. And then the research also says that instructors who are employing consistent structure report receiving fewer navigation questions from learners and more efficient course building. So again, we've got that win-win situation going on here where the instructors are saving quite a bit of time and getting a lot fewer questions from their learners. Makes sense. So now for those strategies, Julie, did you have something?
No, I was just going to say it was absolutely that's how it was for me when we implemented Design Plus and I built it into the course I had been teaching for years. It changed everything. I wasn't and answering as many questions. People were getting things more correct. It was amazing.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm sure some of you have the personal experience that aligns with the research, but the research is certainly telling us those things. And so, how do we implement those strategies, right? What are the practical tips for doing this in Canvas? The first tip, develop a baseline module pattern. Again, it's not that every module will need to be exactly the same, but if you have this baseline pattern, it really alerts or helps learners begin to understand what the course is going to ask of them, what they're going to do in each module, and those expectations really help them focus on that learning. Maintaining consistent naming conventions. This one may seem kind of minor, but at the end of the day, it helps learners quickly identify the resources that they need to navigate around the course very easily. You can directly outline the pattern or structure for maybe that module or for the course in an overview. Great for like an orientation for the entire course. Also helpful on like a module overview page. If for each module you have a just intro page that lets them know the structure for that particular module, great. And here's the key. You can also alert learners to breaks in the pattern. And this can be really helpful too, so you get fewer of those emails like, but I didn't realize we were going to have to do something slightly different this week and I didn't time manage for it, right? So alerting learners to breaks in the pattern is also really powerful, and having kind of like that module overview page and facilitate that type of communication for your learners, or announcements can work as well. And then another great tip here, kind of pulled from the research, is to streamline and support your course navigation. So having buttons on a home page that are really the most important buttons. There's not too much going on a home page, right? Or even having progress reminders through the course, whether that's just having a little word at the bottom that's letting learners know next up you'll be doing, right? And those little reminders about how to navigate or how they're progressing through the course can be really helpful for your learners.
That's a lot of really amazing suggestions, but like, how? I don't want to have to duplicate a bunch of modules and tediously check every page name. I know there has to be a better way.
Of course there is, Julie, with Design Plus. Glad you asked. So I'm going to pop over into a course here and we're going to go to the multi-tool. So Julie had you in the Design Plus sidebar primarily, but Design Plus has multiple tools, and one of them is the multi-tool, and it lives in your course navigation. If you need to enable it to see it, you can do that in your settings. But if I head into the multi-tool is aptly named because it is also made up of multiple tools. We're going to look at the template builder and module builder today. First is thinking about that template builder, right? We don't have to think about this idea that Julie mentioned of like, I don't have to make every one of those pages over and over and over again with all those consistent features. Like, how do I actually do this? Template Builder is just kind of a fun way to build templates. You can do it other ways as well, but Template Builder allows you to pop in to this template builder here and define items as a particular template. So say I want to create an assignment template. That's maybe my weekly assignment template. I can put in a title here. So if this were my chapter assignment, I can go ahead and name it, and then I can, I could create template assignment. And then down here, what I can do is I can open that template. It popped it down here for me. If you can see, I have some others as well, but I can come down here and open it. It opens in a new tab, and here I am able to edit this assignment. Now, I have a couple options here. Maybe I just want to pull in a template or build just the way Julie showed earlier with my Design Plus sidebar. I can absolutely do that. I can create the template here that's going to be my weekly assignment template using the sidebar. But I'm going to show you another way, which is our Design Plus Quick Start Wizard. Say you have users who are not as familiar or not trained yet on the sidebar, or maybe you just want an even faster way to build out that template. You can use the Design Plus Quick Start Wizard here. So I'll open this up, and what it's going to do is give me access to my template content as well as my content blocks. So it's kind of a reduced view for you, and it's a way to just get started. I'm not going to be able to go in and do all of that like icing adjustments that Julie showed earlier, but I can do that in the sidebar. This is just to kind of throw the template down. If I know that the items are maybe already personalized and customized for me, I'm good to go. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, okay, I've got all these awesome templates that I can pull from. Like I can look through these discussions and say, ooh, there's a video discussion template, and that looks pretty cool. I can see it here. It's got tabs with different elements in them, really exciting. So I can see how the tabs work inside this preview. But I'm building an assignment. I don't need to build this discussion. So I can also look in assignments and say, are there any templates that work for me? I can see this structured assignment template, some other various templates here. I'm going to choose this multi-step assignment. And the multi-step assignment, it's plopped onto this preview for me. I can see if everything is in the order I wanted to, or I can rearrange if I needed to, but obviously overview should go at the top, so I'll bring that back. And I can see this need help button, but I'm suddenly remembering, I think the institution might have had some other like assignment help piece built. Let me go see what else there is. I can head to blocks and search through those as well. In going through the process just like I would for anything else, but I can find here maybe some other blocks that have been created by my institution. And look, this one has assignment help that has videos built in with links and things like that. This is what you can do at an institution level to support your users. And now I can say, oh, I don't need two help options. Let me go ahead and remove one. And so then I can just add this to the editor and say, oh my gosh, look at this template. I love it. This is my assignment template. Now, note here, if you're going to use this in the next step that I'll show you in the module builder, and say this is a weekly assignment that kind of has the same number of points and the same like basically assignment submission details, you could actually set these here, and then we're going to rapidly duplicate this template and those settings will be maintained. I'm not going to adjust them right now, but I just want to let you know that that's kind of like a razzle dazzle part of the module builder, and it's something to think about here at the template builder portion. So I'll go ahead and save that. And then I'm going to go back to the multi-tool now, and I'm going to head over to the module builder. Pretend I built out all my templates, or maybe I already have some templates, right? But I'm going to head over into the module builder. What does the module builder do for you? This allows you to rapidly get that consistency, whether you're redesigning your course or designing a brand new one. Let's take the redesigning case here. Say I've already built my course, but I was like, I like Stephanie's point about naming conventions. Maybe I need to add some information about one of my modules. This is an existing module in my course. In the module builder, I can make changes very quickly. I don't have to edit each individual item on that module's archive page. I could say, hey, you know what? I want this to say week 2 in front of every item. So I can put that prefix in here. I could check this on each of these items. And then at the very bottom of this module, I can say, hey, please update this module. Or, you know what, I realized I want this one rearranged. Look how easily you can change elements in your existing modules. And when I do, and I update this module, all of them will say week 2, roaring 20s, etc. So great. But let's talk about also building out a brand new course. You can scaffold a course in seconds using the module builder. Maybe I do call my modules weeks. So I'm going to come down to this new module pattern and say, I want each of my modules to be a week. I want to create, maybe I'll say 8 modules. You could say 16, you could say 32, whatever. And I want it to start at module number 1. Now I'm going to define my pattern for my modules. I'm going to say, okay, each of my modules for consistency, for that structure, starts with a page that's a module overview page. And I can call this overview. And you know what? I'm going to choose a page that I already created. I had like a, maybe I had a module overview. Maybe let's come down here if I have one. If I do, look, I can even choose from my own existing course pages where I was like, I have a module overview page, and maybe I don't. That's okay. You'll see it in a second. I was like something else. So then I can say, okay, the next thing I want to do is have a page that's my like chapter content. And so this will be, week number chapter content, chapter learning. And again, I can pick a template that I want and assign that there. You'll see this now if I were to do the assignment because I assigned that as a template. So if this is my weekly assignment, it already has a name associated with it. Instead of doing a blank assignment, which I could do, I can choose my chapter assignment here. If I wanted to adjust the name, I can, or else it'll pull again from this chapter assignment. I could change the submission type here. I can say I want all of them to be 10 points. I want the grade to be displayed as points. I can go through all of this. I could add a, we can keep going, right? And maybe I want to add a discussion for my learners. That's a weekly discussion. And then maybe we do a quiz and then we do a wrap-up page. And again, I can name all of these elements just to show you. I'm filling all of this out. And then I'm going to say, please generate this module list. And it's going to generate this pattern. It's not complete here. As you can see, I'm going quickly. But if I generate this module list, it's going to make 8 of these patterns for me. So this is week 1 overview, week 1 chapter learning, week 1 wrap up, week 2 all the way through. And maybe you say, oh, you know what? It's funny, week 7, we don't even have a quiz because it's a short week. You can just remove items very quickly. You can rearrange items as needed, right? You're not stuck with this module pattern, but when you're ready, you can choose to add the modules to the course and all 8 of those pre-built modules, scaffolded for consistency, naming conventions, organization, it's all there. Amazing.
Wow, that sounds like a really easy and efficient way to create a whole lot of consistency across a course. That is
Yeah.
super cool. I've seen in my, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you keep going. You keep going.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're good. I'm just realizing I forgot to show off all the navigation options that we had. So that was my
Oh, go, please.
little element here. So we talked also about, okay, well, what good is all of that content if you can't find your way there? You've got beautiful naming conventions and things like that, but you might need to help your learners navigate there in the first place. So we've got so many ways in Design Plus to help you help your learners navigate the course really easily. We have a link grid, works really great, maybe on like a home page to have the top few links for your learners to access. We have module lists that'll just automatically pull in the name of all of your modules and you can customize them with associated icons. We've got progress indicators that you can slap on every page in a course so your learner can not only locate where they are in the module, but also jump around in the module. So we also have a lot of ways to help your learners utilize that beautiful structure you created and not just, have it be beautiful for your sake and you're proud of it.
Amazing. I love it. Well, I have to say, I've seen in my own experience how this kind of consistent design, not just at the course level, which is obviously very important, but also at the institution level, is huge for student success. When I was working previously, before I came to City Labs, I was at a college where we were using a not Canvas LMS, and all of our organization was not great. That LMS allowed for teachers to create their own set of navigation on the left, and every course was organized differently, and it was made it really hard for our learners to find what they need. And when we transitioned to Canvas in 2016, we also got the idea to start using a template system to import certain templates into the courses and build them out with a consistent sense of navigation on the left and module structure in the modules area. And one of the most amazing things for me was seeing how our research department was able to show in our statistics that from that summer of 2016, our student success levels went up and up and up. And it wasn't just in our online courses, but in our hybrid and on-campus courses as well. It was really eye-opening for me.
It's amazing. I love that we can have data supporting that these things actually work, right? I had an interesting interaction recently with a customer who was talking to me about how this idea of some sort of institutional template, and we actually got a couple of questions about program level consistency, which I think is on par with this idea of institutional level, like maybe not as big, but we're still talking about a large mass of people using some sort of consistent design. So I think anybody asking about program level can also tune in here. But this idea that they suddenly faced crazy inclement weather and they had to change everything to their online courses. But because they had this institutional template in place, it was a huge lifesaver for them. And that all of the courses that traditionally met face to face had everything in place. All the students had the same exact thing, that they knew where to find all their assignments, they knew where to go for everything. And so it was a huge lifesaver for them. And this really applies in a lot of different situations where things shift, right? We have a lot of changes, whether that's adjuncts coming in and needing some sort of, setup to come in and know what they're doing, or we have faculty turnover, any of these crazy weather things that we're all facing in our world today, snow days, hurricanes, whatever. And, substitutes, teachers are out some days. So all of these things are really to help make people's lives easier. And it's not just for the faculty, but also the learners, right? And so everyone is being supported for this, reducing stress by having these familiar structures.
Absolutely. Those are amazing examples of ways that consistency can really, really help, and especially across a program or, yeah, at an institution level. So let's see what the research says. And a little surprise, of course, it echoes your experiences. Um, so we talked about mental models earlier, but just to say mental models are transferable, right? They live in long-term memory. And so further multiplying their ability to reduce cognitive load is something that's awesome. So if you apply consistency across courses, those mental models can be reemployed in each and every course that that student enters. So helpful. Um, there's a quote here. These researchers argue that online courses need consistent design, organization, and structure across various units in a single course, kind of like what we were just showing with the module builder, and the various courses in a curriculum. That way, students can concentrate on learning and demonstrating a mastery of content rather than continually adapting to changing course designs or variations in courseware functionality or operability, right? And that makes a lot of sense. But how can across course consistency be supported? Because we can say, great, that's so lovely. It's such a fun idea that all the instructors and all the courses would have this baseline consistency. Woohoo, right? That's a dream world. So how can we implement that kind of thing? And research has a few suggestions. We had a whole webinar about scaling best practices that can help if this is like of particular interest to you and you want a deeper dive. But checklists are one way because they take entire complex processes and they break them down and they help us see what constitutes a high standard of practice, or in this case, examples of baseline consistency that has big impact for your learners. They provide that shared language so that designers and instructors can all be talking about those consistent elements, and they can serve as a reflection tool like, is it easy to navigate your course, right? Another way to support this is through just-in-time job embedded learning opportunities. A lot of research on instructor professional development will continue to echo that just-in-time job embedded learning opportunities really support the instructor at the moment of need and have a higher chance of actually being implemented, those strategies being implemented if they're happening when it's needed rather than like, a year before you ever really thought about it. And then, of course, we keep coming back to this idea of templates. But of course, when we're talking about consistency, we got to talk about templates. And those help scale course designs and their use benefits both learners and instructors. So the research is supporting that as well. I mentioned in the chat already and gave the link to our Templates to the Rescue webinar if you want to learn more about that as well.
Quick time check. We have about 15 minutes, so I just wanted to let you know where we're at.
Thank you. So we've got a few strategies to share. We've pulled from the details of the research. These pretty much just echo what that research said. Develop a simple checklist for your educators about what consistent items really matter for your institution. Provide support resources for implementing those in the moment of need. You want your instructors to have a consistent homepage? Make sure those support resources are available when instructors are building a homepage, right? So at that term starts. Design and distribute templates with high impact consistency elements built in. I saw someone talking about the course navigation. Like if you distribute them through Commons, you can kind of set up the course navigation there, as mentioned here, for consistency.
Yeah. So in the experience that I shared, where templates in Canvas directly led to student success, we had to do everything manually. We had to upload the IMSCC files, and not everyone who came on as a new adjunct faculty might even know about them, and it was a struggle to keep things consistent. The good news is Design Plus makes it easy to make institutional content available to everyone with customizations. Let me show you. So we already know that institutions can provide content blocks and templates for all users to access, making building a page like this one really quick and easy. And Design Plus offers so many more opportunities to optimize the consistency of content across your courses. This is done through our Design Plus customizations, which can be built by your admins at the institutional or even at the sub-account level, and can also be used by any individual designer or instructor at the course level. We're going to look at a few quick examples of customizations in practice. First off, I'm going to utilize our quick styles. Now, these quick styles allow us to quickly style our content. There's some naming for you. Maybe if I'm at a higher ed education institution, rather, I might want something simple and classy, like a gray footnote. Or maybe I really need to draw the attention to this text and I make it a little bit more impactful. Or perhaps I'm part of a K-12 institution and I want to style some of my text to give a little bit of that feel. We can, again, apply this to text anywhere throughout our course, just very quickly to keep that consistency of feeling. In addition to our quick styles, customizations allows you the option to categorize your icons. So I don't know if you know, but we have a lot of icons in Design Plus. And so maybe you want to narrow down the selections for your users. You can, instead of just browsing the many, many categories we have, create your own institutional icons. That way, as your users are creating icons on their pages, they become that visual anchor that Stephanie mentioned, and they can see those same anchors over and over again. And again, this doesn't just have to be at the institutional level. You could, for your very own course, maybe you're teaching biology, you could create your own set of icons from our icons, but your own category, your own collection, I should say, that you can then call on over and over to provide that visual anchor that helps your students know where they are. We also have snippets. Now, snippets are a very fun design element that helps you actually add pieces of content into the page very quickly. Let's say, for example, you want to add in some Canvas support information. You can select this, and very quickly on the page, we've got Canvas support. This is a consistent look and feel, so your students from class to class know where to find this consistent information. Or maybe in your course, you put a call out. That's a hot tip that helps your students know that whenever they see this call out, there's some really good information there that they need to know. And again, coming back to that idea of saving yourself some time in building, you can also use snippets to do things like pre-style your assignment tables so that they always have a similar, consistent look for your students, but you've already put in most of the effort of making them accessible with headers and putting in most of this text. And all you have to do when you drop it on the page is fill in the actual pages or practice questions that they need to do. So there's just so many ways that you can use Design Plus to support consistency across your Canvas content and your Canvas courses. But Stephanie, once you have all of this amazing stuff at the institutional level, how do you ensure it gets adopted and actually used?
Right. You can build all those gorgeous templates, blocks, snippets. You have those icon categories. It's a great question. Let's talk about Ready Go. And I'm going to do this quickly so we have a little bit of time for question and answer, but a different tool. So clear your minds of Design Plus for just a second. so hard to do. We have another tool called ReadyGo that really supports your course lifecycle management, whether courses are getting ready for the start of a term or whether they're in some kind of like accessibility audit, or maybe you're doing a course redesign for consistency, whatever it might be. You can develop batches, which are just sets of courses that you define with a title that you provide, such as course design, course redesign consistency. And you can pull in a bunch of really custom information and data about those courses. So I can choose which columns I want to be seeing and save the columns as a quick view. So I could apply various other quick views to see different columns of information. But for now, I have some columns pulled up that could be useful for supporting course consistency. Here I have a column for status where you can define and then set statuses for courses to be able to track all of those courses across your institution or just in this batch. Whether it's published or not. But here's a good one, homepage type. If you're really interested in each of your courses having a welcoming and consistent homepage to support learner navigation, it would be helpful to know that some of your courses still have their homepage set to modules, right? Because that means they don't have a homepage. And you can see this information at a glance for any of the courses that you bring into a batch. You can find out if it has a syllabus. You can see if the syllabus is using Design Plus, that lovely template maybe that you built for your syllabi with Design Plus, and then you find out, sure, this course has using the syllabus in Canvas, but they're not using our Design Plus template, right? And so you can see that information really quickly here. You can even see the percentage of the content in the course that's using Design Plus. So I might say, oh, this user might be implementing a lot of our consistent design elements, and this course might not have a lot of those, and maybe we need to go in and work on that redesign or support them in some way. And speaking of support, how do you do that, and how do you manage all of that? ReadyGo has the ability to apply custom checklists, whether to an individual course here, if I were to use this plus button, or in bulk action. If I wanted to select all of these courses in this course redesign batch, I could come to bulk actions and I could choose to assign a checklist. Now, if I've created this checklist ahead of time, maybe this one is that consistency checklist that's got a few items that I really care about on it, I can apply that to all of the courses here. And now I'm able to track these consistent elements in this course using this checklist. What's more is that I can also utilize these elements for support. So when I selected a particular task in this checklist, it says the template can be applied using the Design Plus Quick Start wizard. Watch the training video for more information. And I can link the training video here for my users to be able to access. Yes, instructors can access ReadyGo through a special view called the ReadyGo Instructor View inside their courses to get information about that. But I could also choose to use my bulk actions to message all of those teachers and let them know that they can find out how to add our homepage template. If I came down to message instructors, I'd be able to very quickly send all the instructors included in this batch a message about that information. So ReadyGo makes it really easy to manage and support this kind of consistency across your programs. All right. So in summary, right, we hope that you have learned some ideas and seen the ways our tools can make designing for consistency much easier and more fun too, whether that be at the content, course, or institution level. And we really hope that those consistent design elements will boost your learners' success and save your designers and your instructors time in the end. Do we want to jump to Q&A, Kristen?
I think we should. Yeah, there's a couple that I think we want to touch on. I'm going to kind of jump around in order. Candace wanted to know, can templates be made from blocks so that portions of the page be made consistent, like directions for a video or a list of standards or success criteria?
Yeah. So Julie was talking a little bit about customizations. You can design blocks, individual blocks, and then you can also build the templates straight from blocks. So Julie showed that really at the beginning of the webinar, kind of just building only from blocks, or you can pull in those whole item templates, whether that be through the Quick Start wizard or using the Design Plus sidebar. And so in the example I gave too, I pulled in a whole page template, but I didn't love the help resource that was there. So I used a block that was pre-designed and pulled in that template item as well. But you could certainly just build out like a couple template items on a page using template blocks and then build your own custom everything else after that. And the sky's kind of the limit in that way. Julie, anything you would add?
Sure, yeah. And if there are certain elements that you wanted to lock down and make it so that they couldn't change them for that consistency, you could definitely use our policies tool for those pieces, or even I believe we have a hidden gem to lock a specific content block. So if there's some that you want not editable and some that you want editable, we have a couple ways of doing that.
Great. And I reshared the template video, which we do cover a little bit about snippets, content blocks, and all the different sizes of things that you can make. There were some questions about when we were on the multi-tool that Bill Wallace wanted to know. I have a course with 80 modules organized into 13 sections. Can Design Plus handle that?
Looking at Claire, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what the capacity is.
I think it can handle that level of modules, but you definitely would want to test it out. And if it's not working, reach out to support@citylabs.com and we can help. So yeah.
Another one about the module builder, Jody Bang wants to know, is there a way to build that module pattern into already existing modules that have already been created and named, but now I would like to add templates for overview assignment into each module?
I get that question. Like if we're back in the multi-tool here in the module builder, can you inject the templates to the existing pages? And I don't think we have a way to overwrite that, but what's really cool about the Design Plus sidebar is if you use our template content tool. So let me go to something that is existing. I'll just use this page. When you use our template content tool in the sidebar, you can choose to apply it above or below the existing content. So I can't quite like stick all of the templates on there already, but if I'm already going to have to come in here and do some edits anyways, because there is existing content, if I just choose to add template content here, I get to choose whether I want that template content at the top or the bottom of my page and whether I want it to overwrite the current content or not. So if I just want it to be at the top and then I can move everything around, then I can just choose a new template and that template's there. And then below is my existing content so that I can kind of finagle my existing content up into the template. I hope that kind of helps clarify.
And I'll jump in real quick. Our Brad Moser also reminded me that when it comes to locking, you can use the advanced HTML tool. There is a lock feature there as well. Our amazing designers built it right into the tool now. You don't have to use a hidden gem anymore.
There was a question from Sandra early on about consistency. Are there any suggestions for scaling down instructions as we move through the semester? For example, I make a City Labs page with the detailed instructions for perusal reading activities, which we do weekly and are part of every module. Should I scale down the instructions for these regular assignments by week 3 or use accordions to scale down the reading on the page? Any course design suggestions?
This is one of my favorite questions because when you get really far into this, like brain learning and the scaffolding, at some point the scaffolding becomes the distractor. So yes, the instructions that they are aware of can become a distraction for getting to the learning task. Thank you for this question. A favorite way that I have always used is either tabs or accordions. So sometimes in the front tab, if I've got a little bit of information, it says for further information or a reminder, select the next tab over. So it's visually hidden, but the like primary instructions still exist. The same would be true for the accordion. You can absolutely kind of hide that content. A final way I would suggest, and maybe Julie has some other ideas, but we have our dialog boxes, which are like a pop-up, so you can turn a trigger text in, like for more information or a reminder about these instructions in full detail. They can select them, they stay on the Canvas page, but there's a nice little pop-up that can contain all of that. The good news is you just copy all of that content and have it in there, and then you can either save those items, right, as like, again, a block or as a template moving forward so that you're not taking out those instructions and placing them into an accordion over and over again.
Yep, I was going to suggest the dialog box as well. So perfect.
Great option.
It's a favorite.
We will share this recording out along with all the links. And I know there's a few questions we didn't get to, but there are some videos and links that I will share as well as words along with the recording in the next 2 days. Thank you all so much for your engaging conversations and questions. We really appreciate it. And we will see you in a few weeks. We have the University of Denver joining us on the 27th, talking about the win-win-win situations. You can sign up. I'm going to drop the link now and hear them talk about how they are using these tools to support instructional designers, their faculty, and their students. And then following month, we've got more Design Matters Lives coming, and we will also be doing a number of events. So if you are out and about, we have a lot of conferences. Even today, we are at the UF Intersections. We're going to be at a number of events this year. We are doing lots of conferences. But I am going to end it with that as we are over time. And thank you all so much for coming today along this journey with us and our silly metaphors from cake and stop signs. I hope you have a beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank you all.